I'm in the legal line. I was an employee for about 23 years until I decided to be self-employed, and that gave me an opportunity actually to be able to regulate my own work as well as leisure. After being an employee for 23 years, where time was not really your own, it's quite nice to take that shift to being able to regulate the timing for oneself and family. I think it's more a question of deciding what was one's priority maybe in life, or what one wanted out of life, whether it was to work and build a bank balance, or whether it was to have the other balance, which was also to have quality time with the family as well as oneself. Yeah, the biggest challenge was actually, I think, a mindset challenge for me personally, because after 20 plus years being an employee and being secure and having certainty, the whole idea of stepping out on your own was probably the biggest challenge, because it involved uncertainty, risk, and fear, I suppose, too. Well, for one, I certainly had no time, and I think time is a very precious element, because one can be working maybe sometimes from 8 hours to 12 hours to maybe even 15, 16 hours a day, and in that process something has to give, which is normally the family and leisure time. So it's a question of balancing the two. The tendency is for acceptance of every piece of work that comes, because work sometimes equals income. But after some time, one has to decide whether the work that one does is actually cost effective or not. Because whilst one may have the impression that one is working very hard, you also have to look at the returns. And sometimes, a lot of the time, we are under the delusion that the returns would actually be worthwhile as far as the type of work is concerned, but sometimes that's not the case. You could actually end up in the negative. So one has to be a bit discerning and to be able to say no. Okay, I'm quite fortunate in the sense that my work takes me outside the Klang Valley to other states. So I would normally combine the work with leisure if I'm outstation, for example. If I have work on a Monday and Tuesday, and I happen to be free on a Wednesday, I would stay on, and that would be like a mini holiday. And when the kids were smaller, younger, I used to take them along, and that made a very, very big difference, because you're killing two birds with one stone. And of course, when one went to places like Penang, there was the beach, there were all these wonderful eating places. Similarly, along the way, on the journey from KL to Penang, there'd be stop-offs in places like Dido and Sengkai, Ipoh, Taiping. Trips, I remember once on the way back from Penang, we took a small diversion, went to Taiping Zoo, spent about 2-3 hours there, back into the car, back to KL. I think it's making the most of one's work as well as leisure and time with family. Well, if there was family, of course, they're always there to encourage, to have the kind word, not to complain when things get a little tough and hairy. Friends, in terms of work, if there's any work available, they're the ones who would pass it or pass the word around. I think it would be, first of all, to make the decision as to what one wants what one's priorities are, and then I suppose assess the situation and probably take the